talk about vision a lot, but in the context of regions, today we're going to talk to Pat Steed, Executive Director of Central Florida Regional Planning Council, Colleen Burton, Community Engagement Manager, and Shannon Brett, Heartland 2060 Program Manager. Let's talk about Heartland 2060. What is that all about?
Well, Heartland 2060 is something that's really important to us at the Central Florida Regional Planning Council, really important to our region, and really important to Polk County. It's really a grassroots initiative that was begun back in 2007, where business people, government related people, and civic engagement people all got together and began to talk about what would we like for our region to be in the future, and do we have some problems with our region today. And out of that initiative, we've now grown, really through this time, to cover a lot of important topics about looking to the future. And we used 2060 because that was about 50 years out. And although that's a long time, if we're really going to change things dramatically, it takes a long time to make major change. But it's about identifying what we want to change today and also working together so that we can change some things for tomorrow.
What does this mean to the residents, people living in Florida in those regions? How does that impact them?
Yeah, our region is actually called the Heartland of Florida, and it's known sometimes as the No Coast, because we really are the only region in the state of Florida that doesn't have a coastal county. And it's very important to us here in Polk, but we're kind of the center of it all. If you think about a lot of things that go on in terms of the transportation corridors, in terms of like I-4 and US 27, and also things in terms of our environment, the Peace River, the Kissimmee River, the important lakes and many natural resources that we have throughout the region. We also include 6 other counties as well as Polk, and those are counties that lie to our south. That includes Hardy and DeSoto, Highlands, Okeechobee, Glades, and Hendry. And they really have a lot of commonality, and the people that live there have some commonality too. Our roots are really in agriculture originally and a lot of phosphate mining, but it is our natural resources that are a huge part of our economy. And so looking at our economy not only today and in the future is something that I think all residents of our region are concerned with, and that's where a lot of our work has been.
How about economically or for business? What vision do they get out of this?
Well, that's a really important question, because a big part of what we have done in the Heartland 2060 is to really look at what kind of economic future we may have, but also look at today's economy and what things we can be doing. Related to that, we also have just finished developing the Regional Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which we call the CEDS. We hate to have an acronym, but we do. And Shannon's the manager of that program, and if she could, I'd like for her to share a little bit about what goes into putting that strategy together, which really is a partnership with business and government in this.
Shannon, go ahead and share with us that important information.
Okay, thanks. At the Regional Planning Council, we are also what's called an Economic Development District, which is a federal designation. And we have a few responsibilities that go along with that, one of which is to develop this comprehensive economic development strategy that is completely updated every 5 years, but we also can do updates annually. We have a committee, a CEDS committee, which is appointed by our council at the Regional Planning Council, and the committee is made up of a partnership of public, private sector, community representatives, and government representatives. And that committee meets throughout the year, and the staff at the Planning Council, back in the offices, we do a lot of technical work related to that report. We do a lot of data gathering and a lot of analysis to look at the status of the region today while we're preparing that report. So we look at things like, just a few interesting things, 35% of the children in the Heartland are living in poverty, for instance. How do we address that through a lot of the initiatives that we're doing, and how do we tie that into economic development, resiliency for the region, how the region is going to be healthy for these children as they grow up. Educational attainment is another thing that we look at. In our region, we have, generally speaking, lower than state and national levels of high school graduates and college graduates. So how do we look at that and tie that into a healthy workforce and the overall living experience for people in the Heartland? We do a lot of strategy economic development plans for the region. So we work together with all of the other economic development organizations, with the state, and we align ourselves with the things that are going on in the state. So we look at clusters, which are industry clusters in the region, historically what they have been, and then what we think that they're going to be in the future based on the things that we've looked at throughout. We identify key projects for the region and opportunities. So basically what it's doing, that strategy that we've developed, is sort of doing a health checkup on the status of the economic situation in the region and putting together a roadmap to make our economic development situation more diverse and more healthy as time goes on. And we have tied all of those goals and objectives and strategies and all that information that we were able to gather, we've tied that into then the vision process so that everything is very cohesive.
Well, Colleen, talk to us about that vision process that takes place.
Part of the challenge and the opportunity, if you will, with the vision process is that it allows us as communities, and we're talking about a large region in the center of the state here, to bring together good research, good analysis on the economy, on the state of our region at the time, the education attainment, those types of things, with the hopes for the future of the community, of people living and working in our community. And as Shannon mentioned, we know that, for example, educational attainment is lower than any of us would like to see it now in the community. Well, from an economic development standpoint, it has importance. But to our families in the region, it has a different, an equal importance, if you will. It adds a whole other layer of concern to that, because families in our region would like to see their children be able to go to school here, get all the education they need to have great jobs, and to build a future. And that's really important. So while you have this conversation and a vision that allows us to bring in good data, good research, good analysis, and tie it to the hopes and the desires and the core values of our community, the things that people think are really important to them, that they don't want to lose. Things like the natural resources that Pat mentioned earlier, and natural resources includes everything from our streams and our lakes to our ag community, to citrus, to cattle, to all those great, we have a lot of land, a lot of space in our communities and in our region that's used for various purposes. It's important to the people in the region that we maintain that. It speaks to them of quality of life also. A sense of community, of belonging to a community is very important to the people of the Heartland region. Up and down the region, we hear all the time from people, they love that they feel like they belong to a community, and they don't want to lose that, yet they realize we've got to have jobs, things have to change. We have to be paying attention to what's going on around us economically and just in the world, if you will, and in the state of Florida, so that we can continue to have that. Another issue, if you will, that we have here in the Heartland of Florida is an aging, not just workforce, but an aging population. And our seniors want to be able to, it's interesting, we want to have opportunities for young people to stay in the region. We also want to make sure that as we all age in the community, that we could stay here and still get to the things we need to get to, have a great quality of life as we retire someday, and as hopefully we get to see grandchildren and great-grandchildren maybe even. And we hear that all across the region, that multiple generations of families want to be able to stay. But there's a complexity of what do you have available, how do we educate, provide all the resources that we need to move our young people up, additionally provide the resources that we need so that we can age in place, while incorporating the new economic development clusters that are coming along, taking advantage of all those things that we're the right place for. And we're the right place for a lot of things here. And the reason visioning is so important is because a lot of decisions get made by business leaders and elected officials where it helps them to know what's happening in the community. It helps them to know let's say if you're an elected official on any of the many county commissions that we have across our region. It helps them to know. We help through a visioning process, they help be better connected, if you will, to the long-range goals of their community. The business community has a sense of where the region sees itself holistically. So we can't prescribe anything, but having that common conversation is very, very important. And I think Pat mentioned earlier also, and Shannon did too, about the tying what we're doing locally to the conversations that are happening at a state level. Because there are vision conversations happening not just in our region, but at a state level also. And knowing that we have a place in the state of Florida, and trying to work with everybody in our region to make sure that it is the place that we all want it to be, that our citizens want it to be, is really important work. Our regional planning councils all across the state have connected visioning efforts and local efforts like this to actually a system called the 6 Pillars, which was formed and developed by the Florida Chamber Foundation. And Pat, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I think that's one of the important things that really, as you can tell from what we're talking about, involves a lot of people and a lot of different entities and interests, but the Florida Chamber Foundation really does work to represent the business community and the private sector. And they have a plan and a structure called 6 Pillars, which really they developed and brought in lots of people. Colleen and I have had the opportunity to participate in that, where they really have developed a common language. So often, our problems are we don't speak the same language. Occasionally, when we get older, we think our children and us don't speak the same language, or things like that. But the truth is, we've needed a common language in Florida in terms of talking about economy and quality of life and other things. So using that structure, we have restructured all the comprehensive economic development strategies that Shannon talked about, all the regions in the state, and there are 11 of the regions, so that we all have plans now that use that same common structure. In the next, I think, month or two, we're going to have, we anticipate the release of a state plan, which will really be a strategic economic plan for the state of Florida, and it too is in that same structure. So for the first time ever, we've really had alignment of regional and state, and therefore then our local plans to all be together with the private sector so we have a common language. With that, because we're also involved in federal programs such as the Economic Development Administration and others, we've been able to take that language into our plans that we have on the federal part. So I've been at this a long time, and we've never really had that alignment before where we had commonality. So often government becomes somewhat fragmented and each does their own way of going about planning and economic development. But now we are becoming much more I would say team-oriented because we have a common language. And I think that's really going to be not only effective for now, but effective in the coming years and certainly long-term as we continue those efforts to work more cooperatively together. And I would say a lot more efficiently because we can share data and information much more effectively now. The important things when we started doing Heartland 2060, and we really brought together over 150 people have been involved in this process, as well as additional focus groups. So we've really gone out to deal with people that weren't at the table to find out their interest, and those are some specific groups that Colleen and Shannon have helped lead. We have really engaged these people to say, are we just like everywhere else in the state? If we're just like them, why do we need a vision of our own? And what we've discovered is, yes, there's a lot of common things that we are absolutely alike, and on those things we need to work cooperatively at the state level. But there's other things that are uniquely ours. There are things that Colleen was mentioning that are related to our culture, to what's important in our community, to the unique issues or opportunities that we often think in our areas. So that's where then we concentrate on what are the differences. One of the things we're currently in the process of doing, in fact, is looking at visioning, and we're working with the University of Florida to really have a tool to look at these 7 counties for the future. And coming out of the work in the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, we really are looking at 3 economic futures. And as we look at those, we're saying, well, what would be the opportunities and what would we need to work on to make the best of those? And what would be the things that might be obstacles or risk in those? And so how could we minimize those or get around them, so to speak? So that's really what will be laying the groundwork for really a strategic 5-year action plan that will come out. And that will be the thing we work on continuously over those 50 years. It isn't a plan that will go on the shelf. It's really something that we're going to incorporate in everything that we do and the many partners that are part of Heartland 2060. Just to mention what those three kind of future economies are that we're looking at, one of those would say that the future might be kind of like the present. And as we look at our 7 counties, really the 2 largest areas of employment we currently have are in natural resources, and that does include agriculture, it includes phosphate mining, it includes a variety of other types of natural resource type jobs, but it also includes healthcare. And healthcare is one of the largest employers in our region, and along with that aging population that Colleen mentioned, we anticipate that will be growing as well. And a healthy community and a healthy lifestyle is very important to the future, and so we see maybe the future will look like more of what we have at present, but growing new job opportunities, new technology to support a lot of that. Another one of the futures that we're looking at we call the trade economy, and in fact that trade economy looks at the opportunity such as the CSX Intermodal Logistics Center that's under construction now. We see logistics and trade really growing. We have this great opportunity because of our roads and our railroads, and in the Heartland we're right in the middle of everything, and in Polk County you're right in the middle of the middle of everything, as we often say, all roads lead to Polk, someone said one time, and I think that's really true in many ways. And from that, we see great opportunity to increase manufacturing, and for all the cargo things that are coming in with the widening of the Panama Canal, we see that trade route opportunity to do infill to export from our region being a great opportunity for the future. And then the other one that we look at is really in terms of alternative energy. We have a unique opportunity not only with solar power options in this region, but we also have the opportunity to grow fuel crops and to grow crops that will allow us to produce electricity from renewable means. So those are really the 3 possible economies that we're analyzing and looking at what would it take to do it, what kind of workforce would we need, what kind of education do we need, what kind of changes do we need in either community structure or government structure to help us make the most of those opportunities and also to minimize any of the negative impacts to our communities.
Tourism is also very important for us, for all of us, for the economy. How does that play a role in this?
Well, that's really important. When I said that the current economy might be the predictor of what our future economy might be, although the 2 largest employers are healthcare and natural resources, a big important part of our history and our future is tourism. So we do see that being there, and that would be an important component in any of the futures that we see that might happen in this region. What we do see is really an increasing interest in the traveling public, and we really see that the international traveling public in ecotourism, and really coming to see not just our wonderful parks and man-made places that you can go and have entertainment and recreation. Those are really important and always will be, and many other opportunities. But we see many of them, tourists wanting to come and do ecotourism. They want to go explore those wonderful rivers and lakes. They want to see the wildlife. They want to see the unique plants that we have here in Polk County and in the Heartland that you can't find anyplace else in the world. And we have tremendous birding in the area as well. As a matter of fact, long ago, before I ever moved to this county, someone told me about the most unique birding place in the United States was a place called Polk County, Florida. So I heard about it long before I came. And interestingly enough, I find people around the world know about that, but sometimes we don't recognize how many people that helps put us on the map. So there's lots of other things like that over time, as we see a lot of this interest in ecotourism coming, the Heartland is full of these opportunities to maximize that as well as continue to grow our other tourism opportunities.
Transportation is also very important to get around, to travel. We do that now. What are the any specific ideas or plans that are in mind, how to improve that or just expand that?
Transportation is a really important part of the Heartland 2060 vision, because to make transportation changes takes a long time. You know, we don't just go out and build any road or even get any rail tracks very often, or increase our bus system easily. So those are things that have to be planned in long term. So that's very much a part of what we're looking at. We're really looking at one of the keys is what kind of transportation will we need to support that future economy. And it's important, how are we going to move goods, because we think that will become a big part of what's important to us in the Heartland on the existing roadways, and maybe even new ones for the future through the Heartland. But the other point is really, how are we going to move people? How are we going to get people to work and to play and to school and recreation? And what we're discovering, along with what Colleen said about our aging population, is that many of them want convenient things nearby, that they are not going to be as prone to get in that car and drive great distances as they get older, and that they will want to be near things that they can walk and, in some cases, bicycle, and have transit to actually take them door to door. So we see that overall in the next 50 years becoming really important, that we really look at how do we maximize opportunities for convenient and affordable transportation, how do we support the economy, and also how do we incorporate that into a healthy lifestyle. If you go out and ask people one of the things that they'd most like to have in their community, they almost always say, we'd like to have a trail. They want an opportunity where they can go out and walk or bike. So really, transportation choices in the future become very important to our success in improving the quality of life and sustaining a good economy for the future.
We talked about transportation and the vital role it plays. I like how you said that you want to, this is going to help bring things closer to the people too, so they won't have to do constant traveling. Also, the water need, what are some of the possible specific plans or ideas to be able to, sustain our water needs in these regions?
Water is really one of the most important things, and in our core values, our water resources is one of the core values that really we have for the Heartland region. And what's so important about that is that many areas of our region have struggled with their water resources, and we of course are prone to drought, and we have to be concerned about the aquifer for use not only for our drinking water but also to sustain agriculture and industry. So it becomes very important how we plan for that in the future. Conservation is a huge part of it. All of us conserve water way more than we did 10 or 20 years ago. It's just a natural thing that most of us do. But the county has really been proactive in being involved in really a multi-jurisdictional approach to looking at water resources on a larger than just one city or one county at a time. And that kind of cooperation, and really on a more regional scale, is going to continue into the future if we're going to be successful in maintaining our water resources. The other thing that's very important in terms of not just water supply is the quality of water in our lakes and our streams, because remember I mentioned ecotourism. That's really important, because if we want to get out and enjoy the lakes and enjoy fishing and the wildlife that come and use our lakes as well, then water quality becomes a critical part of that whole ecotourism industry, and certainly our quality of life.
Colleen, share with us, how can the residents or community be more involved in this?
Well, that's a good question, and really quite timely. Over the summer months and into September, there will be opportunities where partners of ours from across the region, as well as members of the staff of the Regional Planning Council, those of us involved in Heartland 2060, will be out and about providing presentations throughout the community to familiarize people with Heartland 2060, to get them engaged a little bit more in this conversation. That way, it'll be an introduction of sorts for a lot of people who maybe aren't familiar with Heartland 2060 yet, but we know over the coming years, they're going to hear more and more about Heartland 2060, not just in Polk County, but all across our region. So we'd like to introduce the process, the vision, the group, the partners, all of us to them, so that they know that it's a place where they can be connected, and where, quite honestly, all this detailed conversation regarding water and tourism and transportation and education, economic development, will reflect their thoughts also. We want them to be part of this conversation and be aware of what's happening. So today we don't have any great dates to announce, but we want people to be aware, when they hear Heartland 2060, thanks to you, they'll have a little bit of familiarity with what we're talking about. We'd like them to come and look for those opportunities.
Shannon, share with us, how can they find more information, the public hearing this, and where can they go and get contact people or whatever?
Right. Well, we do have a website for this vision process. It is www.heartland2060.com, or I think .org will take you to the same website. They can also visit our organization's website, cfrpc.org, and there is a way for them to get to the Heartland 2060 website. We put a lot of good information on there. We put notices for the meetings up there. We're actually doing a lot of technical work that over time, as we have products and deliverables, will be up on that website. So I would encourage everyone periodically to go poke around in there. There's a lot of good information on there already. There are a lot of presentations, and there's a lot of data and a ton of information from past meetings that we've already had over these past few years. And then the technical work will be starting to go up for people to take a look at.
Well, thank you for coming on this show today, and we thank you for sharing this vital information that we can utilize and look forward to. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It's good to be here.
As you can see, there are many elements that go into building our region for the future. You too can get involved. It's as simple as going to cfrpc.org. You could also call them at 863-534-7130. Make sure you get involved with the region's future.